Not married. I have no apartment. I'm homeless. It disturbs me. She represented 1970s American television at its best. Susan Dey, barely 18, became a pop culture icon. Natural talent, obvious beauty, and a grin that melted millions' hearts. But as the flawlessly composed Laurie, she shone stronger on television. Partridge's life behind the scenes became more fractured. Ash lost her mother aged 8, and her childhood was ruined. The smothering fame forcing her into her body nearly collapsed from rigorous dieting. Long-hidden love for her co-star, resulting in tabloid-covered betrayal. Finally, she left Hollywood, rejecting reunion offers and cutting all links with her hurtful past. What happened to star once considered America's youth treasure? Why did a rising icon a fade of splendor leave silently? Which truth underlies Susan Dey always fought to protect her smile? The secret tale where brilliant spotlight meets hushed tragedy of a life behind the curtain. Susan Dey was born December-born Illinois into a middle-class family where her father a newspaper editor and her mother a nurse. Her childhood start, it appeared to go smoothly like any other child's. Yet life did not keep her calm long. When Susan was 8, her mother died abruptly. That shock left a silent wound throughout her life, both an origin grief and an unfillable void. Toddler Susan didn't scream, lash out. She became silent, self-absorbed, and grew up quickly within her age. After the tragedy, Susan's father transferred the kids to New York, where he remarried sensible, insightful Gail. More than a stepmother, Gail unwittingly shaped Susan's future. Seeing her unique beauty with innocence, she sent images to modeling agencies. Susan still didn't value herself. Gail kept probing her toward the spotlight, which would subsequently make her famous, also plunged her into emotional pits she could not escape. Susan got her first modeling contract at 15. Her kind features, soulful eyes, and an innocent yet compelling personality made she stands out among teen models. For the first time, Susan felt validation she once believed was undeserved. She had no idea the spotlight would arrive so soon. Soon, early would be expensive. Magazine covers and photos. Susan was emotionally unprepared for the start of a roller coaster career. In 1970, a modeling headshot of Susan Dey unexpectedly appeared when she was 18 that caught the attention of an ABC executive, and fate drastically changed that different route. Without acting training, film experience, or she played Laurie Partridge in the musical sitcom, The Partridge Family after few tryouts. Her innate charisma, expression eyes, and pure presence convinced filmmakers they had found the ideal young girl Americans wanted to see. They were right. Immediately, Laurie Partridge became one of most popular early 7s TV characters. Family Partridge became culturally significant phenomenon from season 1 with high ratings, hit albums, and extraordinary fan devotion. Susan's face was on posters, magazine covers, school notebooks, and bedroom walls America. Fans brought bags of letters to the studio weekly, and a girl who had discovered modeling thanks to her stepmother suddenly grew into a national adolescent idol too quickly for her young heart. Susan sacrificed her health for the perfect girl appearance. Producers pressured her to keep skinny to suit TV beauty standards. Terrified due to criticism and public scrutiny, she began rigorous dieting. At one point, eating only celery and carrots. Her weight dropped to 41 kilograms. Her arms appeared skinny if that one touch could snap them. But every time the camera rolled, she smiled like everything was fine. Flawless. Susan plunged in without professional experience, practicing piano, harmony, and acting while filming. Learning on the employment, gasping for breath under sudden stardom. For seasons of the Partridge Family creating hit singles, best-selling albums, and TV nominations, brighter the Susan's fissures deepened as the spotlight shone. At her best success, she felt a dreadful void. Who would notice loneliness? A girl pushed to grow up too fast. The show's popularity soared in 1972. Across America, Susan debuted in Skyjacked with Hollywood superstar Charlton H. She had never appeared until 2 years ago in front of cameras. Now she was on screen. It sparkled and frightening. Not the lead, but enough to show viewers Susan was more than a smile and young beauty to filmmakers. She had a real-life actress potential. That year, she published Secrets on Boys, Beauty, and Popularity. Being an American teen girl role model. Her basic beauty advice and relatability made the book a bestseller. People wanted to be like her, not simply watch her sing and perform. Yet the greatest more fame, heavier shadows. Partridge Family ended in 1974 while at the top, heartbreaking millions and a young star who had yet to breathe amid the glitter. When the dazzling backdrop disappeared when the lights went out, leaving a thinner, calmer Susan, terrified of being stuck as Laurie. Partridge was happier than she was for real. Fame came easily, but escaping it would be the real challenge, nearly costing her her identity. Because when everyone thought the fairy tale had ended, Susan was about to face her greatest challenge, demonstrating the world that she was more than the oldest Partridge girl. Susan entered the phase every former adolescent star goes through after Partridge worries, escaping their prominent persona. She returned to film with Skyacted and Hawaii 5, subsequently joined Little Women in 1978 to prove she could play more than sweet teens. But Hollywood wouldn't easily forget Laurie Partridge. People gawked whenever Susan appeared in a photo, still saw the oldest Partridge sister. Being stereotyped became a problem, constant worry, and every new project was expected to be different. In 1977, Susan gambled on the romance sitcom Loves Me Not that would drastically change her career. But fate was cruel. Ratings dropped. The show ended after 6 episodes. Failure was a sharp warning that breaking away from her past would take longer and hurt more than she thought. That, however, she excelled in Mary Jane Harper the same year. Cried Last Night depicted a young mother's mental breakdown. Positive reviews showed her true nature beneath her polite exterior, actress capable of exploring human emotions' deepest regions. It wasn't a glaring happy spot that like her Partridge Family fame, but a little flame rekindled Susan's belief in herself. She might return to Hollywood with talent, not simply as former teen idol. But it would be crucial in the 1980s that Susan to rewrite her entertainment career that a breakthrough nobody thought she could do that a fateful opportunity came in 1986 when Susan played Grace Van Owen in the TV powerhouse L.A. Law. Not just a role. That door established her as a serious Hollywood actress. L.A. Law gathered together a talented, creative team to depict Los Angeles's heated legal competition famous instances that shocked America. There, Grace Van Owen was initially a sharp-witted prosecutor and then a strong, independent, deeply sympathetic judge, rapidly became a show staple. The role required precise legal lines and emotional depth to portray women-in-law ethical dilemmas. Susan conveyed the character's maturity in her glance that cold and resolute against crime, but showing viewers the she has armor cracks. L.A. Law became a cultural phenomenon, drawing tens of millions of viewers weekly and helped NBC dominate primetime. For Susan won a Golden Globe for Best Actress in 1988, 3 Emmy nominations in a row. It was a remarkable change for star Question the Partridges. Susan was fierce beyond pretending, preserved character depth. When writers prepared a cliched romantic plot for ratings, she insisted that requested contractual guarantees that Grace would remain a woman with a profession and voice, not a decorative romance. Grace Van Owen became an icon for her position that the modern woman. Bright, self-reliant, and unwilling to settle for cheap-and-screen romance. With L.A. Law's huge success, Susan continued taking on emotionally charged TV roles like Lies and Lullabies as a pregnant Laurie drug addict, showing she was more than a lucky star deep performer. Every spotlight costs. At its peak, her career and personal life were going to suffer devastating wounds no fame could heal. After Susan entered a new battlefield after winning Hollywood with Grace Van Owen, SNL's live stage. A dramatic actress in a comedy institution where every mistake is a national joke. But she appeared with confidence. Her effortless improvisation delighted and startled spectators of comedy. She said it definitively. Susan Day was unlucky. Character actress. She could do anything she wanted. Just when she was flying high, the crash was sudden. Love and War sitcom intended to keep her star glowing lasted only a few episodes before she replaced due to lack of chemistry with male lead. A stern verdict, a slap to the joy of a Golden Globe winner. But Susan didn't lash out, did not beg or seek fame at all costs. She left out with grace. A project that disrespected her talent would lose her. Susan quit sitcoms for a harder path. Reconnecting emotionally 1993's Lies and Lullabies, she starred in and co-produced as a pregnant cocaine addict striving for motherhood, reclaim her final hope threat. She had to explore psychological darkness fans had never seen before. Without tabloid fanfare, the film was well received. Susan had grew as an actress and artist. She proceeded after Lies and Lullabies to preferring truth-driven positions over easy attention. She was on TV, Blue River, Deadly Love, and Bed of Lies. Grim criminal tales, betrayal, and precarious lives. They were not hits, but affirms one truth. Susan no longer chased stardom. Character authenticity was her goal. So with integrity, she showed spectators that America's sweetheart's innocent smile belonged to a shadow actress. In depth. As Grace Van, Susan reappeared in 2002 to movie Owen in L.A. Law, a tribute to her greatest legacy, but also a gentle hint she would only return when she felt worthy of leaving the faded spotlight. Her appearances become uncommon by choice. In 2004, Susan put an end to her role as Dr. Breen in Third Watch. Over 30 years in Hollywood. No retirement news conference, tears, or dramatic gestures. Farewell. She left peacefully, resolutely, in the only manner she had ever learned protecting herself was better importance than public attention. When Susan's story began its most private chapter, leaving fame behind, but the ancient wounds quietly gnawed at the center of the American's youth treasure was a woman. Following her departure, Spotlight revealed Susan's past scars. And the most story that never found peace was the most terrible. Between her and David Cassidy. They met as teens on the Partridge Family, too young to recognize fame's cost. On TV, they were perfect siblings. Duet, convincing millions that something warm and wonderful connected them. Together beyond music. Behind the scenes, Susan recognized she had fallen in love with David's humor and intelligence every time he entered the set. She denied knowing or admitting David lived in another universe. A bursting world, girls flocked him every night in admiration. Where one-sided love was insufficient to keep a boy addicted to idolization, Susan calmly listened to him discuss brief romances, masking her pain since the man she loved saw her as carefree small sister. Everything changed the night the Partridges died. David invited her. A dinner Susan believed would reunite them. They spent the night together. She thought it was her prayer miracle. The next morning, the miracle disappeared. David realized called satisfy Susan. That night was love for Susan. For that's guilt, David. Time might have healed the hurt if the narrative ended there. In 1994, David published his memoir, detailing the night in a tone that made Susan's innocent love a tabloid spectacle. She felt the deepest sensation off not because he didn't love her, but because the most sacred piece off her heart was public gossip. Susan stopped communicating with David Cassidy, and his late apologies would never reach intended recipient. After David died in 2017, Susan stayed silent, not out of malice, but because some pains resurface when out loud. David was her most beautiful yet painful chapter. She loved him with childlike innocence and learned that love doesn't always reciprocate. Susan had to continue when David closed the door to optimism. In that frail moment, Dale McRaven brought unusual tenderness into her life. Dale, a gifted writer and producer, created great sitcoms, didn't think Susan was America's perfect teen idol. He noticed a young woman still searching for heart safety. Susan met them during her profession. Flying, but her soul was bruised. Dale gave her something. Never knew. Safety. No fame, scrutiny, or pressure to be perfect. Two young individuals leaning on each other to escape Hollywood storms. Through their years together, Susan occasionally thought she had solved her childhood emotional hole. Losing her mother too young left her afraid of abandonment. Dale took good care of her, softly filling David's void. They took unexpected journeys to escape stardom and spent quiet nights away from studio lights. Dale may have burned her heart, but he could hold it. However, Susan was swiftly rising in fame. While Dale stayed, she had to pick between a job and silent love behind the scenes, between the spotlight and a gentle embrace, extending beyond imagination. No guarantee of permanence. The Partridge family grew apart as it peaked, stretched not from lack of affection, but because life pushed them differently. Paths. Their relationship ended. No fighting, scandals, or blaming. Just two young folks who never learned to cling on when everything changed. When that door closed, Susan carried a gentle melancholy. The kindest reached the right time, but lacked the strength to finish. Then, before those old scars could heal, Susan entered a new sort-of love. A partnership that appeared safe but pushed her into a difficult marriage, pushing her to learn how to protect herself hard again. After her soft love with Dale ended, life led Susan took a different path toward an older, more experienced man, Lenny Herson, an industry veteran. Hollywood veteran talent agent who represents several of the top talents. With Lenny, Susan discovered the guidance she needed in stardom that he saw Susan as a promising actress and a delicate soul in need. Protective. Though not flaming like youth loves, their love was stable enough for Susan to trust her future. They married in 1976. Calm and uncomplicated. Susan's decision because she was bored of public life. Scrutiny. Their daughter Sarah arrived 2 years later. Most delight in life ever given her. It seemed Susan's heart healed. First time in a while, she had genuine family. However, Hollywood is never perfect for individuals who want peace. Combining the 25-year age gap with distance between a rising star and a man beyond his prime steadily pulled them apart. After his experience, Lenny hoped Susan would settle more and take less risks. Completely opposite her creative drive, Susan became caught between two roles. A mother and wife anticipated domestic tasks, and an actress determined to escape the shadow of Laurie Partridge to establish her value. The brighter professional spotlight rose. As her marriage shadows grew, conversations ceased. Familiar hands retreated. The more years they held on, it hurt more. Marriage ended in 1981. No controversies, no accusations, just two people who no longer got along. Susan left. Sarah, a lady who thought she'd found a lifelong shoulder, was heartbroken, was just a stopover for her rehabilitation. Lenny departed her life, but he wounded her trust. As her success increased, Susan felt more alone, as if each step fame took another piece from her. But fate kept testing Susan day. A fresh relationship followed her first divorce. One more mature, stable, and where she would find what she wanted. Sought a true home in vain throughout her youth. Her heart. Following her divorce from Lenny Herson, Susan understood that love someone is hard, but staying in love is harder. She entered the next years more cautiously. Looking for a safe landing. Next, Bernard Sopransky, instead of a lightning bolt igniting her emotions, but a gentle light leading her up many falls. Famous television producer Bernard worked quietly yet steadily. Successful. He proved himself without the camera. He knew show business was tough. Knew what a woman who had dedicated her youth to art needed to relax. Susan was a single mother when they met. What surprised her most was how easily Bernard opened his heart to her, and Sarah, her life's child. Not much was reported about this love. It wasn't analyzed by audiences. It didn't compete for attention. It blossomed naturally, like they had both realized that unproven love is powerful. They married secretly in 1988. Choice that spoke volumes. Susan no longer wanted love to change. Performance. The man she chose listened, was patient, and most importantly respected her silences. Bernard never sought to mold Susan into his image, anything no one had done before. After years, they stepped away from Hollywood's noise and simplified life in New York. Fan gone screaming, no more searing lights following her. Also, no more silenced nighttime tears. They prioritized family and famed values that denied Susan trust, safety, and belonging somewhere. Naturally, no marriage is flawless. They still disagreed, struggled with differences. However, fissures should not become wounds. Sitting together, they repaired them. Just what Susan needed. After years of following an unnamed love, who would stay, even on days she wished to escape herself, Susan discovered the most greatest gift a former star could receive. A calm life. She no longer had to prove herself to others. Susan watched the spotlight wane and the ovation fade into memories. Gave up celebrity with a tranquility rarely seen in Hollywood. After 2004, she virtually disappeared from media. No new jobs, no industry events. Instead, she lived quietly with her second husband, Bernard Sopransky, in a tiny town village in upstate New York without cameras or fans outside the door. For Susan, it was the ideal area to breathe and heal from glory injuries. Years. She is rarely seen by neighbors, and when they do, it is simply a pictured, simple woman walking with her family or shopping. She spends time reading, gardening, and enjoying the simple pleasures she lost throughout her years of fame seeking. She avoids social media. Talk publicly, and has no desire to reunite with the Partridge family after the profound Dave Cassidy-related emotional scars. Although out of the spotlight, Susan softly gives back. She continues to support survivors of sexual assault at UCLA Rape Treatment Center, served on the board at her career peak. She may not no longer win gold medals, but she leaves a legacy of compassion, distinct light, soft and durable. Remembering American television audiences will always associate Susan Day with two memorable two-eras portrayals of womanhood. Pure-hearted Laurie Partridge, who made the nation smile in the early 70s, and Grace Van Owen, who transformed 1980s Hollywood portrayals of clever women. Two responsibilities, two milestones, one woman. She had a short career, but her impact was significant. The Partridge family immortalized youth in pop culture, whereas she proved that women could control powerful dramatic lead parts in an industry previously dominated by men molded by males. Susan employed her talents outside of entertainment that speak up for sexual violence survivors, humanizing chapter in assumed glamour-only life. Maybe Susan Day's best legacy is unrelated to ratings or accolades. In the woman's image who dared to change, refused to be boxed in, and left when the light turned become too light for her eyes. Hollywood is reminded by her narrative. Not everyone is brave enough to fight for individuality underneath the glamour. Susan Day was a star so dazzling a country couldn't look away. No spotlight, however powerful, can reveal inner pain. She had a childhood of sorrow and pure love that openly exploited, an eating disorder that silently destroyed her body, professional setbacks that eroded her trust. But she continued rising, determined to live alone. Terms. Susan prefers silence today. Calm over frail beauty. That decision has sealed her fate. Beauty, an icon of American youth, who finally loved herself, sacrificing for the light for years. After hearing Susan Day's tale, what do you think of her leaving stardom to find herself? Comment below and subscribe for more wonderful and calm adventures that of those previously universally loved.